Hello. Today's lesson will be on the American Revolutionary War, and today's main focus will be the events leading to the Revolutionary War. Okay, so just some brief background information. In the beginning, European nations were fighting to see who could be the top dog. They were especially competing with each other for world resources, military strength, and political superiority. Some nations were upsetting the balance of power. Meanwhile, in America, colonists had, some ideas of their own. They were ready to leave their home country and start fresh. The American Revolution, also called the War of Independence, started in 1775. The first shots were fired in Massachusetts and Concord and Lexington. This war caused America to separate from Great Britain and thus helped create a new nation. The war was fought for 8 years and ended in 1783. Now, the revolution wasn't an impulsive act that just happened overnight. There are multiple historical events leading up to the fighting of the revolution. The major causes in chronological order are the French and Indian War, the Sugar Act, the Stamp Act, the Townshend Acts, the Boston Massacre, the Boston Tea Party, and the Intolerable Acts. 56 colonial leaders, including George Washington, Patrick Henry, and Samuel Adams, decided to figure out what course of action to take after the Intolerable Acts were passed. They met in Philadelphia in 1774 and became known as the First Continental Congress. The First Continental Congress agreed to the following measures to let Great Britain know they meant business. They boycotted British goods, they armed themselves, and they formed trained militias and appealed directly to King George III. King George, he seemed too dignified and important to be bothered with the trivial demands of the lowly colonists. He refused to allow for colonist representation in Parliament. He did nothing to pacify the American colonists and continued to disregard their request. Enough was enough. American colonists stockpiled weapons in Concord, Massachusetts. Then fighting began. The first battles occurred outside of Boston in Lexington and Concord. It is often called the shots heard around the world, as the 13 colonies decided to challenge the mighty British Empire. Paul Revere, one of the Sons of Liberty, warned colonists, "The British are coming." It was time to make the split from Great Britain official. After the initial battles of the war, the Second Continental Congress convened in May 1775 in Philadelphia to call for an official separation from Britain. A committee including Thomas Jefferson was selected to write a draft of all the reasons the colonists wanted complete separation from Great Britain. A new country was about to be born. Thomas Jefferson was the unanimous choice to draft the document that would become the birth certificate of the United States, the Declaration of Independence. Benjamin Franklin and John Adams aided Jefferson with Declaration revisions. The document clearly listed colonist rights and their grievances against King George III. Where teams were divided up to pick sides in the battle, American colonists were split. 1/3 were for the revolution. They called themselves patriots. 1/3 who named themselves loyalists were against it. 1/3 apparently didn't care to choose sides. When it was all said and done, two major groups of the war emerged. The first lineup included patriots fighting against King George III. The second group were loyalists teamed up with the king's redcoats called lobsterbacks against the patriots. Now tomorrow, we will pick up with the advantages and disadvantages of the British and American soldiers, and we also will discuss the major battles and the turning points in the Revolutionary War. Finally, we will discuss the Treaty of Paris. Thank you for listening.